It's raining outside. I really hate the rain in this town. That's all it ever does, is rain. Drip, drop, drip, drop. I looked over to my right at the nightstand beside my bed. My alarm clock read 3:40 a.m. This always seems to happen. It rains so hard outside that the droplets eventually navigate themselves through the one crack in the roof above my bed. Drip, drop, drip, drop. Each droplet forming a steady rhythm as it hits a section of my bed, creating a large wet spot. I drag my legs over the side of the bed, slowly lowering myself to the cream carpet flooring. As I hop off my bed, the cage on the other side of my room begins to rustle, and a little head pokes itself out from the tiny bars. Nolly, my pet ferret, is dancing around in her cage at the sight of me being awake. I walked over to the giant black cage she sleeps in, and stare at her with a half-awake smile. "No, Nolly, it's not playtime now." She hisses in response in her normal bratty, I better have things my way attitude. Drip, drop, drip. Walking back over near my bed, I reached into my nightstand dresser and pulled out a huge roll of checkered print white and black duct tape. Examining the pink sheets on my bed, I determine where the water is getting in through my roof. I jump up onto the bed, unrolling a section of the tape, and rip it off. Carefully placing the ripped off piece onto the dripping hole, I threw the duct tape on the floor, not needing it anymore. As I did so, I couldn't help but look over to my window, and immediately thought aloud, I then began to think aloud once more. Why are my bedroom window blinds open? I thought I closed those before I fell asleep. Blowing it off, I kneeled down on my bed and closed the black blinds back over my window, only to catch a glimpse of how hard it was actually raining outside. There was roughly 3 inches of water off the ground. Not surprising in this town, really. The street outside was curved in. I lived in a cul-de-sac. I could barely see the house across the street through the darkness and the fuzzy rain. Just then, my stomach let out a growl of anger. God, I need food if I'm ever going to get back to sleep. I walked outside of my bedroom door, not caring if it slowly creaked open and made noise. I lived alone, so why should the noise level matter for me? I began to walk down the long hallway leading to my living room, and eventually I found my way into the kitchen. Walking into the doorway, I reached to my right and flipped the light switch on. From where I was standing, you could see 2 windows, one to the right, clinging to the wall right over the kitchen sink, and one to the left and in front of me, being the back deck's glass doors. Looking above me, I was a bit startled. I forgot I had a skylight in my kitchen, which makes sense, because it never really stands out in the room. The only way to notice it is if you're standing right under it. Raindrops were hitting the glass panes of the window quite hard. How did I not notice this sound before? Shrugging at the stupid questions I was making, I walked over to my left and opened the pantry. Nothing inside of it really seemed to catch my eye, due to the fact that all the food in it required quite a long time to cook. Not being one to cook at 3 in the morning, I let out a heavy sigh and turned back to the light switch. The rain only got harder as I made my way down the hall and back into my darkened bedroom. Lightning and thunder had started up as I turned off the lights and sulked back over to my bed, defeated by the lack of quick and easy food I had. I pulled my covers over my neck and let out a heavy sigh, only to hear an angry rebuttal from my stomach once more. I turned to my left and looked at the bedside clock. It was now 4:12. At least an hour it had been since I last checked it. Did it really take me that long just to go and check the pantry? Jesus, I must have listened to the rain longer than I thought. I closed my eyes and rolled over onto my right side, giving up on any thoughts of eating. The entire room was quiet, except for the assault the rain was making on my roof, and of course, Nolly squirming around and the occasional hissing noise from her, still expecting me to play. I wasn't ready for what I was about to see when I opened my eyes. On instinct, I froze. A cold sweat spread across my entire body. Opening my eyes, I was looking directly outside the window in front of me, scared to see that something was staring back. I'm going to use the word entity because there was no way what I saw was human. Its skin, which was pitch black, and it had various stitches across its face, deeply embedded into its flesh. Where its eyes were supposed to be, there were 2 vertical gray stitches. A hole was right in the middle of its face, so tiny, so minute, most likely its nose. Its mouth was non-existent. Only skin as black as the deepest depths of the ocean was there. Despite the fact that this thing had no eyes to stare with, I could still feel its gaze digging deep into my face, my soul. Its head was so close to my bedroom window that the breath from its nose was actually beginning to fog up the glass. I laid there, my gaze locked with the monster in front of me for what seemed like forever. I couldn't even hear the rain anymore. I could only focus on the monster's face and the steady breathing against the window. At first I thought I was just imagining this or dreaming, but once Nolly began to hiss violently, I suddenly looked. My head jerked back and looked at her as she was clawing at the cage bars, begging to be let out. When I turned back to the window, the creature was gone. No fog, no mist, no stitched eyes. Just the rain. I hate the rain. Nolly continued to hiss, nonetheless. I closed my window's blinds once more and laid on my back in the dark. My hands reached around beside me for the earplugs I usually had. Usually for nights, for when Nolly gets too hyper and decides to cause a earthquake at about Mach 7. Was that thing just a trick? Was that my mind playing on me? I couldn't stop thinking about its face in my mind, the stitches, the never-ending darkness of its skin, the constant sound of its breathing against my window, and the mist it created. I can't sleep like this. It took some time before my mind finally calmed down, and deciding that in some insomnia created delusion, I decided I needed some sleep. I decided to roll over on my right side, eyes closed again. And when I opened my eyes this time, not only the blinds were open, but the window was too. I stared wide-eyed at the house across the street through the rain. The little thing wasn't there, staring at me this time. Taking the chance, I shot straight up in bed and ran over to close my window, the strayed pellets of rain getting in, hitting me in the face. This time I made sure to lock it. I made sure. Still looking across the street, I noticed that my neighbor was looking at me from the house across the way. His face was twisted in some kind of horrific expression of some sort, as if unable to comprehend what he was looking at. And that's when I felt it, the steady, deep breaths on the nape of my neck. I never heard it come into my room, and I never got to hear it leave.